And Nicholas in San Cristobal, Mexico. And Nicholas, we heard from Greg Palast about
We certainly did.
Yeah, about the kind of the consequences of the election and how AMLO is going to go forward if it's appropriate to call him AMLO as opposed to Mr. Lopez.
That's what the Mexicans call him. It's just too long a name for even Mexicans to get.
Yeah, there you go. But you live in Mexico, and I'm curious your take on the ground. What do you think about the probability, number one, that the drug gangs are going to try to do what frankly the mafia did to Jack Kennedy and his brother, number one. Number two, or other politicians who support him. And number two, how strong is the public support for genuine, kind of Bernie Sanders progressive policies in Mexico? What's going on there, Nicholas?
Let me tell you, I was down at a very small little bunch of vendors buying some necessities this morning earlier. The place is giddy with elation. The general mood in the people is one of absolute disbelief. They think that some kind of a miracle has happened, that the power establishment did not find some way to completely steal the election, which they would have had to do because the turnout of voters was so enormous that it was simply unbeatable. And all the predictions were exactly that, and it panned out that way. People are ecstatic, Tom, absolutely ecstatic. I am ecstatic. It'll cost me more because the peso will drop back against the dollar, but I could care less. I just don't care. This is so good for the Mexican people. Probably for the first time in history, they will have certainly a more fair shot at the pie.
Yeah, he's going to. His first promise was to lift people out of poverty essentially, and offer free education and expand the healthcare system. This is the same stuff that Bernie was talking about. And of course, the pushback on that was, oh my God, that means you're going to have to raise taxes on rich people. There are some rich Democrats who don't want that, and there's the entire Republican Party doesn't want that. Is he facing the same kind of challenge? Because he's going to have to raise taxes in order to pay for this.
The real problem that he has proposed to date so far is a little unrealistic. He says that if he can clear up corruption, he can free up as much as, I think, $20 billion worth. He thinks the corruption is. Well,
I think you could say that about the corruption in the defense budget right now. Here.
Yeah. It's equal here, I'm sure, or greater. Yes, he'll probably have to raise taxes to some degree on the rich and in corporations, and on corporations, American corporations doing business in Mexico, which of course have them running scared. But to no effect, they were not able to sway the people. They were not having it and how fabulous to follow Greg Palast. My God, he said everything I was going to say and more. The people simply were not going to fall for it again. They absolutely have had it. And that's what I hope that will happen, as Greg was saying. If this infection could just cross the border into the United States now, if there is so much power in the numbers of the people, we are the vast majority. We must never fall prey to the lie that we're not.
Yeah, with the problem that we have here in the United States, I was watching the news coverage this morning, and Louise and I were channel hopping between MSNBC, CNN, and BBC. And BBC handled it straight up. In fact, they actually put a picture of Bernie Sanders up on the screen and said, this is the guy who got, essentially this is who was just elected in Mexico, and made that clear differentiation. But MSNBC and CNN were both asking the question, do we have another, Hugo Chavez? And is he going to turn Mexico into another liberal or left-wing dictatorship? And I'm like, holy crap, what is going on here?
Absolutely not, and that is not what the people voted for. They were afraid of that initially because the right wing had thrown the fear of that into the people, but that was quickly overcome by AMLO's past, and they're not having it. They just didn't fall for it. No, I mean, this whole thing of equating him with other populists is complete nonsense. It's like saying a wolverine is like a house cat because they both have fur, you know. I mean, they're nothing alike. There is the left populist, there is the right. We have Trump, now Mexico.
Yeah, no, but my point is that the media in the United States is, in my opinion, is echoing the talking points that are coming out of the right-wing organizations. And I don't know, I can't name specific think tanks right now because I haven't had an opportunity to look through what they're all saying. But it wouldn't surprise me if Heritage and American Enterprise Institute and all these other groups that are constantly on NPR, constantly on public broadcasting because
Sure.
you know they're so heavily funded by the Kochs and other billionaires who are now also contributing to NPR and public broadcasting, and in an exchange they get their message out. And they're fairly united in saying that I mean this is exactly what happened during the Reagan administration, and with Ortega in what is it, Honduras, I think, or Guatemala.
Nicaragua.
Or Nicaragua, yeah, thank you, was saying that a guy who's essentially Bernie Sanders is actually Karl Marx or Joe Stalin, and the American media it makes me crazy the way that they're.
Well, I have a lot of friends who listen to MSNBC as one of the more liberal in quotes channels, and I keep reminding them. I said, people, MSNBC is owned by Comcast, one of the most right-wing corporations in America, in the world. I said, what can you expect? You're not going to hear the truth. There's too much money involved.
Yeah, it's real unfortunate.
So, it's
Nicholas,
but the other thing, if I have a second or two
sure.
more, which is important, I think, and Greg did not touch on it. One of the extraordinary things about AMLO is he formed an almost unbelievable, almost bizarre coalition of different powers within Mexico, from the far right to the Catholic, most conservative Catholics, to the farthest left. This man is an absolute pragmatist. He tries to make it clear over and over the objections of the far right. And he has said he will work with the United States, but only if, in return, the average Mexican person benefits.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
This is going to change everything. Palace is absolutely right. It's going to change things south of the border and hopefully north of the border.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears. Nicholas, thanks for the report from Mexico.
Thanks for taking my call, Tom. Thank you for caring.
My pleasure. And